Well, to be two, capital G here, got a pretty short duel, but this one kind of demonstrates why rogue decks will always be able to beat meta decks, not because they're better than meta decks. Obviously, if they were better than meta decks, then they would probably be the meta decks themselves, but because people are always unfamiliar with rogue decks, and I feel like there's always just a surprise factor. A lot of times people don't read the cards, they end up making misplays that were probably just kind of obvious to the people who are actually playing these rogue decks, and things that were avoidable are not often avoided. So you see, obviously at the top we have the Trickstar Sky Striker, commonly known as the best deck in the entire TCG, and then at the bottom we got the little Odd Eyes. Obviously Odd Eyes is nowhere near as good as Trickstar Sky Striker, and as far as I could tell, this is pretty much a standard build. He has one card in here that is a little, it's kind of like techie. I don't really agree with it. You saw it in Trickstars a long time ago. You don't really need to be running it now. I'll point that card out when it comes up. Anyway, so I believe that Odd Eyes are up first. Okay, so he's just going to search with his Spiral Strike, activates another copy, and now is he going to Pendulum Summon? Yes, he is going to Pendulum Summon Phantom Dragon, and then he just goes into Vortex. This isn't like a terrible field, just because Vortex obviously gives you a little bit of stun. It's a pretty decent sized monster, 2500 attack. Usually you don't summon it in attack mode. Almost everybody puts it in defense mode, so it's okay. Let's see what his opponent's going to do. Oh, he opens up with Contract of Don 1000. That's the card that I was talking about. I've never been a fan of giving my opponent cards. I don't think that you need to run that. There was a time where Trickstars actually ran that card, but that time has passed. Anyways, he goes for the Widow Anchor. He has to negate that, otherwise he's just going to lose the Vortex Dragon, so it doesn't make sense not to negate it, but it does mean your Vortex Dragon is eaten up, and you can see he still has the copy of Engage. He still has the multiple copies of Trickstar Late Stage, so he should be able to do what he wants to do. Now here obviously is the first big misplay of the duel, and I think it probably cost this guy the entire duel, right? So he gets the Vortex Dragon off the field. That's perfectly fine. Obviously, that's the right play. You got to get Vortex Dragon off the field sooner or later. The problem is he's going to go after the Dissolver Pendulum Scale. This card really doesn't present any type of threat. Essentially, all it does is it kind of has a fusion ability to let you go into like a one of your like fusion dragon monsters. Essentially, it's like a built-in poly. This card is not a threat at all. The problem is when he ends up blowing it up, it obviously triggers the Arc Pendulum Dragon effect to let him summon another Odd Eyes monster from his deck. He should have just popped this card instead. That way he would have actually shattered the pendulum scales, and at the same time he could have avoided this effect. It changes the landscape of this entire duel, so watch what happens. Art Dragon triggers. He ends up getting a Persona Dragon from his deck. Now he's going to go for Hornet Bit. When he goes for Kagari, he forgets to play around this right here, the Persona Dragon, which can actually negate the effect of the Kagari. So he thinks he's getting Startup Engage. No, he's not getting Startup Engage, and now it's like, bro, you probably should have tried to play around that. He's gonna go for Candina, and you know, he tries to attack again directly. Well, he tried to attack with Hayate. I think he may have thought that Persona Dragon's effect was a hard once per turn. It is not a hard once per turn, so he actually doesn't get that effect off either, being able to attack directly and get the Foolish Burial effect. So yeah, this is just people not knowing like what their opponent's cards actually do. Now there is a little bit of solace here. He has the Candina. He's gonna go for triple Lycoris, which I think is pretty good. If he had triple Lycoris plus Reincarnation, I think he probably would have won this duel, and you're gonna see why. I mean, so much burn damage is coming through. I mean, it's like 800 per draw every time your opponent wants to do anything, and you can see here, not only did he take 2400 just there, your boy has got a copy of Terraforming and Sky Iris. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but both of those cards actually search, so he's looking like he's gonna take a bunch of burn damage. Maybe he's not gonna use the Terraforming yet, but he adds anyways with Electromite. Just the burn damage racking up, man. It's really racking up. You see him adding, and then, well, he does activate Terraforming. What am I even talking about? So he takes another 2400. The problem is the burn damage cannot carry you completely to victory unless we're going to end of match procedure. Yeah, he's going to be able to finish his entire turn out. Another thing is his pendulum scale right here, the Phantom Dragon, giving his monster, his Odd Eyes monster, what, 1200 attack if I'm not mistaken, when you attack over. So now his Persona Dragon, which should only be 1200, is able to run over a Candina. Well, a Candina or, well, no, excuse me, a Lycanroc. Candina's in his hand. Now he's going to summon his Vortex Dragon back. You saw another misplay, man. He should have activated the Scapegoat before Vortex Dragon hit the field. I think if he would have possibly been able to get Scapegoat off, I think he would have been able to go on the Borolo Dragon, and then Borolo Dragon could have possibly brought him back into this game. But him getting his Scapegoat negated, I don't see any way he comes back from that, because you know when he summons Candina, it's just going to get negated by the copy of Vortex Dragon. He tries to go back to the well with Kagari, but that gets negated by Persona Dragon. Even if he goes for a different Sky Striker Link monster, it just doesn't matter. He has 2 copies of Persona Dragon on the field. He uses Trickstar Reincarnation, but what is that going to do at this point? I mean, it can revive a monster, but you don't have enough, like, you can't stop all of this damage from coming through. He's going to give his monster 1200 attack, and that's the end of the duel. So you saw that, I think that, you know, I think he was just unfamiliar with this kind of rogue deck, and that's the reason why rogue decks often beat meta decks is you have a huge surprise factor, you know what I mean? You end up popping the wrong pendulum scale. That pendulum scale gets your opponent another monster. Then you summon your first Link monster. It ends up getting negated. You think, all right, well, he used this negate. You find out in that same turn, oh my god, it's not a hard once per turn. You misuse your Scapegoats, and I mean, I feel like there were at least 5 or 6 misplays by the Trickstar player, and almost all of them were completely avoidable. But sometimes that's what rogue decks do, man. They just hit you with those effects that you don't know about, and you know, there's an old saying that you don't know what you don't know, and I think that's kind of what you saw in action here. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this short duel. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.